Good evening, YouTube family. Tio here with Simplistic Fishing. Hey, back at you tonight with some lake breakdowns. This time we're going out to East Texas to the greatest lake of all time, Lake Fork. I'm going to break this thing down into 3 or 4 zones. I think it's going to end up being about 4 different zones. We're going to start off on the Big Caney Arm. So down there southeastern end of Lake Fork. We'll cover all the Google Earth waypoints there. Then we'll talk about the offshore spots. Then we'll move up to Little Caney, do the same thing, and then we'll move up the lake and back down the other side. So this is going to be a good one. Lots of videos coming up for Fork. Hopefully, it will put you on your PB. Stay tuned. Here we go. Let's get started on Lake Fork. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to break this into multiple zones. I said 4 zones, but it's actually going to end up being 5 zones. So I'm going to zoom back out here and show you guys the entire lake here. So zone 1 is obviously it's going to be up this end of the lake. And then zone 2, it's going to be more kind of the Little Caney side. So up in here and all up on that shoreline. And then as I move over, zone 3, you'll see here a little bit farther on the northern side, northwestern side. Zone 4 is going to cover that area. And then zone 5 will end up back here, down here by the dam. So I have a ton of stuff to share with you guys on Lake Fork. And the cool thing is this is just what I can see from Google Earth. This does not include the offshore hotspots. So I'll include the offshore hotspots as well for you guys in the next video so that we can have a complete picture of Lake Fork. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to back these down to zone 1. And in regards to the year that I'm using, the best image that I could find for some of these creek channels, especially when I get back up here in the creeks, was January of 2012. So January of 2012 actually gave me the best image. So I didn't find a lot of necessarily laydowns on Fork and things like that. It's a little bit different. So if you've ever fished Fork before, I mean, really it's creek channels, it's grass, it's fishing tree, standing trees, not necessarily laydown trees. I guess you could, but a lot of standing timber and stuff like that. So this one's going to be a little bit different because you'll notice I didn't see a lot of laydowns and things like that to mark, but I did mark a ton of road beds, ramps, and all that good stuff that you're used to. So moving back up in here, if we come back in here, and I don't know the name of this little creek here, but this is a pretty good place to catch under. So if you can get back up in here, tons of stumps, you got to idle up back in here and be super careful. But I've marked this entire creek channel for you. So as I mentioned before, check the bends of those creek channels, fish around the creek channels, and even get as far back in here. I've heard of people having a lot of success with getting unders in those tournaments, getting way back in there underneath that bridge. So definitely a good spot to fish. And you could probably kind of follow that creek channel around there. You're still going to hit some stumps and stuff, but maybe you'll be able to find a little bit of a path to get back there. There are a lot of stumps back there, so just be careful. And then moving on up the shoreline, I didn't see too much going up the shoreline as I mentioned before, but getting back up in here, this is called Coffee Creek. And Coffee Creek is one of my favorite places to fish. There's hydrilla back in there. It's a huge grass flat that goes way back up in here. We've pretty much fished almost all the way past this point, like right in here is about as far as I've ever gone. But this is a great place to fish in the fall, probably in the summertime too. I don't know, I haven't been out there in the summertime, but anyway, it's just a great place to fish on Fork. And if you're out there fishing, work around these creek channels. These are your hot spots of where you're going to find the fish. So definitely focus on those areas. Anywhere where they make those bends, set up your boat where you're casting across that bend. You're going to have a lot of success. I can tell you that we've caught a ton of fish just following this creek channel and basically just fishing the edges of it. And then we've also caught a lot of fish right over here in this little ditch that you see over here on this side. So don't be scared to break off and go there. I mean, really, you can catch fish in that entire flat, but the high percentage areas are going to be around that creek channel. So then I'm going to move on here. Not too much going on down the bank line, as I mentioned, as I scrolled around, but I did notice this, and it's an old roadbed that goes out, and there's actually some debris down there as well. You can kind of see it right there, an old bridge. And I know that this is a pretty good hot spot, or at least it's a hot spot for the locals, because I've seen the locals fish there a lot when I've been back there fishing these grass flats. And I also saw one of the pros come up and fish this point right here, right beside us, one day when we were out there pre-fishing for a high school tournament. So these are really good spots to take a look at for sure. I would fish that entire roadbed and really just look around that roadbed, see what you can find. kind of moving up the bank line, not seeing too much, just a lot of standing timber and things like that. And then as you get back in here, can't really see the creek channel back in here until I get further back in. But once I get back in here, it starts to get really well defined. And so I went ahead and marked those for you guys. Again, you got to be really careful back up here. Tons of trees, but that's fork. And you can see that I've got all these areas marked. So really, really good hot spots. Fish around those creek channels again, and you'll be surprised at what you'll be able to find. So I'm going to move on down past that road bed we just talked about. A couple more things here. There's a ramp there. There's also another ramp here and one here. And then there was actually a laydown here. So there weren't too many laydowns that I could find. I might have to change the year here. Let me change it to, there we go, October of 2012. And now you can see that laydown is very obvious. And it looks like it's pretty good size. So with all the standing timber around, now you've got a little vegetation with a laydown. This could be a pretty good hot spot to fish around. You've also got a couple more laydowns in here. So you've got one right there and a couple right in here as well. And again, I moved my image to October of 2012 just so you could see these laydowns a little bit better. That January one's pretty bright, but it's really good for the creek channels. So as I mentioned, we've got laydowns up here. We've also got a good pile of laydowns right around these docks. So I would definitely come over here and check this out. I love it when they lay down, as opposed to being vertical. If I can find a piece of wood that is horizontal, I will fish it all day long compared to a vertical piece. But that's just me, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So anyway, it's got some really good laydowns in here. And then moving on down the bank line, obviously some good stuff. If you've never fished fork, this is a good area to fish as well, just right in here. There's some grass in here that you can fish around, so it's kind of similar to that flat back in there, but this is like a little pocket of grass that you can fish, and it always produces pretty good fish when you go by there. I'm going to keep moving on down the bank. Again, I didn't see a lot going on the bank. We're going to talk about this point right here on the offshore hotspots. This is definitely a good place to look at, to fish around, especially depending on what time of year it is. It's a really, really good point to fish off of. And then moving on up in here, you've just got this flat, very shallow. You've always got the boat path that goes back in here. But once you get back up in here, there is a pretty significant creek channel that's back here. So I went ahead and marked that one. And again, just like I mentioned before, fish around that creek channel, fish around the bends, do all of that stuff, and you'll start to really have some success back there. And then as you're coming back down there, I know that boat lane comes up right around here somewhere. There is a ditch right here that's very significant. So let me zoom in here and show it to you guys. And you can see here that ditch is really significant, makes really good curves and everything, and appears to have a pretty decent opening to it as well with some laydowns around it. So definitely, again, another good hot spot to take a look at. So I'm going to keep moving on down the bank here. A couple more things to take a look at. I did see another boat ramp over here, a little bit of a deep pocket by it. And then you got a laydown, or actually multiple laydowns that are on here. You can see multiple ones right in here, as well as over in here. So this could be a good area to fish as well. Then I'm going to keep moving on down. I like this little pocket. So if you ever get a chance and you're up here, you fish around. This is a shallow pocket, but always seems to produce fish for us for some reason. You got another public boat ramp that's over here. And then coming off this island, I didn't see too much in the way of rocks or laydowns or anything like that. So I'm just going to keep on scrolling down the bank. And here, did find some laydowns over in here. So you got some pretty good stumps and things, and trees to fish around. But really, again, I'm looking for things that are laying down, not necessarily vertical, because there's tons of vertical timber on this lake. So here, you've got a really good laydown that you could fish around. So if that was a good pattern, would definitely be something to look for. You got another one here. It's pretty long that goes out into the water quite a ways. And then going back in here to this pocket, again, not seeing too much on the bank lines, but I did see a ton of ramps and things like that. So we've got a ramp out here by this boat dock. And you've heard me, if you've heard any of my breakdowns before, I love fishing those boat ramps, especially those personal boat ramps or private boat ramps. Those seem to produce fish almost every time you go to them. They're bluegill hangouts. They're just a good place to go fish. So if you get on a pattern where you've got the ramp pattern, these waypoints could definitely help you. So real quick, if you haven't had a chance yet, go out to simplisticfish.square.site, and you can actually purchase these waypoints along with, I think, 11 or 12 other lakes now that we have out there that you can take a look at. And starting with Fork, we're actually going to start putting the offshore hotspots on there as well. So that'll be included in the waypoints too. So make sure to go out, check out the site, get you a card. We support Garmin, Lowrance, and Hummingbird, and we can also send you the Google file as well if you just want to convert it yourself. So go out and take a look at our site. We truly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get back to this breakdown. So we've got another ramp here that's on this side. And then as we move back in, just a couple more ramps, another one right back in here. And I was hoping maybe that this pond, you could get to it, but it didn't matter how I move the water. That just doesn't look like that's happening. So unfortunately, you can't get back over there. At least it doesn't look like you can. But over in here, a very good creek channel that's established in here. And here you can see I'm in October 2012, but if I move this back to January, now you can see how I was able to mark that creek channel. So pretty well defined there. Make sure to fish around those, fish around the bends, all that stuff that we talked about. All right, so I'm going to move this back to October 2012 just so it doesn't hurt my eyes. And we get down here to this pocket. Scroll back a little bit, let me show you where I'm at. We get back down in here to this pocket, and here we've got a couple more things. We've got a ramp that's here, and then some really significant laydowns really all along this bank line. So I'm not sure if you can see it. You can see it now. So you can see all these laydowns along the bank line. And normally those are going to be underwater, right? Because the water is pulled down quite a bit in this image. You've got more laydowns that are back in here as well. So a lot of laydown timber back in here and some more off of this little secondary point too. So I really like that pocket. It's got good laydowns out front. And then when you get back into the pocket, you've got laydowns on both your secondary points. Those are always good areas to take a look at, hone in on. Crappie fishermen, you'll probably be happy too. Those look like great crappie spots. Getting back into this pocket, if you can get back in here, there is a ramp that's back in there. Not sure it'd be worth your time to drive all the way back through all of that stuff just to get to that ramp, but I guess if the ramp pattern was just fire hot that day, it might be worth the trip back there. All right, so moving on down here, you heard me talk about this on Richland Chambers, especially how pond dams on Richland Chambers are money. And if you can find the pond dams, usually you can find the fish. Well, it's no different on Fork as well. If you can find the pond dams, depending on the time of year, usually this is a summertime type pattern, but if you can find these pond dams and work around these pond dams, these can be awesome places to find fish. So I've marked a couple different pond dams here. This one was a pretty significant pond at one time, you can tell. And it's got a really nice pond dam right here at the edge of it with the little opening right in here. So definitely scan around the edge of that, fish around the edge of it. There's going to be fish around there somewhere. And this thing's pretty cool because you got this little pond here, and then you got a little underwater point that circles around it too. And you got tons of timber around you as well. So it all sets up very well there, for a good place to find the largemouth bass. All right, so moving on down, we got the ramp here, or an old ramp. I put point there just because I wanted to point that out because it's got this really nice shallow point and it's got a little drop off here on the side of it as well. So maybe just fish around the whole thing. You can see, pretty much just draw a square around this whole entire area and just fish around it and see what you can find because you've got laydowns, you've got points, you've got ramps, multiple ramps, 3 different ramps, couple different laydowns, you got standing timber, underwater points, ditches, all kinds of good stuff. Definitely fish along this bank line. This looks like it could be a good bank line for you. And then as we're moving on down, there's some more stuff down in here. We've got the pond dams again. So you got a ramp here, and then here's your pond dam. There's the little opening right there. So fish around that pond dam. And don't be scared to come back here and set your boat up here and actually cast that way and bring it back this way. So I know it seems strange, but don't be scared to do that. I'm not saying you don't go out here and cast that way too, but don't be scared to come in here and go this way. Sometimes that's the more effective way to approach it. All right, same thing here. You've got another pond dam going on here with the little opening. So you could fish, 2 or 3 pond dams just going down this bank line. You got another ramp that's there as well. Another pond dam that's back in here. This one looks like it might have some pretty decent depth to it. And then it really comes up high here at the dam with the opening that's out there that you can see. So now I'm going to keep moving on down here. I did notice that there's an old road bed and you can kind of see it. You see the road, you see where it just pretty much ends in the water. And usually when I see that, I usually try to go back and match it and see if there's anything matching here. And my guess is, even though I think this is just Google kind of messing with our eyes, but there is probably a roadbed here and probably an underwater bridge somewhere in here as well. In fact, I think there is one right in here. Now I'm thinking about it, somewhere in this area. So anyways, going back over here so I don't get lost. follow that roadbed down. It starts right here, and then just follow it down and see what you can find. Those are always good spots to find fish, especially on fork. And then while you're out there, I did mark a little offshore spot over here. You've got a little hump that's just off this point that could be pretty interesting. And it's right pretty close to that boat lane. I think that's the boat lane right there. So you'll be coming really close to it. All right, then moving on down here. Got another pond dam that you'll see here with some roadbed. I put roadbed or pond dam because it kind of looks like a road going through here. But then again, it's a pond dam. And then I was like, oh, heck, I don't know where it is. So it's pond dam roadbed. So it's both. Simple Thinking by Tyler O'Connor. All right. So I'm going to keep on going down. We've got some laydowns over here as well. Actually, just one little laydown, but you can see it's pretty significant right there. Somebody's actually fishing right by it. So don't know if they're fishing that laydown, but that must probably a pretty good spot. That looks like a good point to fish from too. And then going on down here, we're going to keep moving on down. Look at this bare bank line. Nothing for me to mark for you guys at all. But lots of good like offshore stuff. Lots of good points to fish and things like that. So anytime you're going through here and you're looking at Google Earth and you see these lighter spots like this, that usually means it's probably going to be a pretty shallow point coming off. And when you get into that shad spawn, especially early spring, all of these points that have like these clay tops that are lighter like that, you can actually see them, from Google Earth. Usually those are really good spots. I bet this is a good point here. This is probably a decent point. The ones that go way far out there are probably really good points. This could be a good area as well. See how it gets a lot lighter there. So just take a look at that stuff and be aware of it when you're out there looking at these maps and trying to determine where you want to fish. So that really covers the left side of the creek. Let's spin over here to the right side and let's finish up zone 1. And then again on the next video, we're going to break down the offshore hotspots for this zone. So moving down here, something you don't see a lot on Fork, we've got some rock. It's shallow rock, but it looks like you might have some decent depth right here at the back of this dock, possibly. If you can even fish over there, it could be restricted. And then back in here, we've got another ramp, and then more rock right along this point, and really all along this whole area. But it's really shallow rock, so it's going to be a timing thing for sure, and it's probably not going to be a hot spot all year long. You've also got these underwater points. Again, you see one here again, right there. You got a boat on it. This point looks good. The Fork just has so many points that look juicy. So then getting back down in here, got another ramp in here, and another one over here. So really just 3 different ramps. Didn't see too much going on in there. This looks somewhat interesting, but I think it's just standing timber. So there's so much of it. I'm never going to mark standing timber for you guys. We'd have 1,000 different waypoints out there. So moving on down here, I did notice that there is some rock. And you don't find rock on Fork very much, at least I don't. I can't seem to find it hardly anywhere. But right here, we've got some rock, some scattered rock right off the edge of this point, and I guarantee you that's a good spot to look. So take a look out there, throw a shaky head down there, and go to town. So moving on up here, not too much going on in these coves. Did have some more rock off this point, and this one's got some pretty significant rock. So you might actually get some depth off of this rock. So I guarantee, again, this is going to be a good point to fish off of. Looks great, has the rock, which is always a plus for me. If I can find the rock, I usually head that way. So definitely an interesting point to look at. Moving back in this pocket, just a couple different ramps, things to look at. You got a ramp way back in here, you got another one here, and one right here. Again, that ramp pattern could be good, and if it is, you've got plenty of ramps to go fish on Lake Fork. And then up in here, I did notice, not too much going on in these bank lines, but 3 really significant laydowns here. So one right here that's pretty good size, one here, and then one right where that point is. So good spot to look if you're doing the laydowns. Again, good points out here. Same thing I was talking about. You can see how it gets really light. And if I brought that to full pool, you might not be able to see that, but you can tell that is definitely a shallow point that comes off there. These are all shallow points right here. Another shallow point. That one might actually have, it's just a wave. Kind of looked like it had a rock on it. I thought I missed a rock. All right, and then moving up here, we do have some laydowns. Now, these are kind of just laying down, so I don't know how much in the water there will be, but you've got, 4 or 5 right here. So 1, 2, 3, maybe 6, 7, something like that. So good area right in here, especially if you're on that laydown pattern. And then another good point that comes out. And you've got a laydown on this side too. If you scroll over here, this one looks pretty good. It almost looks like a cedar tree or something like that. So take a look at that laydown. And then in here, you've got a couple. You got one here, and then a really significant one that's right here as well. And going back in the pocket, didn't see too much going on in this pocket or even over in this area. But back over here, there is a ramp. So I went ahead and marked that. I thought this might be like a decent pond dam, but it doesn't look too good. But if you go up around it, this opening right here could be decent. So I would fish around the edges of this opening and see if you have any luck there. And then maybe fish that backside just to see, but it would all depend on the depth of the water there. We also have another ramp that's over here. Good shallow spots off the edges of these points, the edges of that island. Good shallow spots between this point right here. Be a good place to look at. We've also got another ramp that's up here that's kind of hidden. This one, I don't know if it's getting used much. Doesn't look like it. So this could be a really good one because it'll be built up with all that algae and all that good stuff that those fish like to eat. So take a look at that ramp for sure. You got a little bit of maybe some rock around that point, so take a look while you're up there. And then another ramp that's over here as well. And then I'm going to scroll around this point, another good shallow point. Got ramps back in here and there and over here as well. So lots of ramps, more ramps, and then a little bit of rock. This rock, I can't even tell if this rock is going to make it to the water. I mean, I think it does when I bring it up to full pool. But it's not in the water much. You can see it's just barely in the water, but it is in the water. So I would definitely go take a look at it. And you got all these tires around here too. And sometimes they like to get up around those tires. So flip up around the edges of these tires as you're down there and see if you can have any luck doing that as well. Then you got a ramp with some rocks around it. And then moving up here, we've got some more rocks that are right here. I couldn't tell what this was, but it almost looks like two different rock piles, one here and one here. And then you got these funky looking tires that come out here as well. So definitely fish in that little vicinity right there. Square bills, things like that. Could have some pretty good success there. Then back up here, another public boat ramp. And I'm going to scoot over here into this pocket. Got a couple more ramps over here. You've got one here, one back in here. You got another one that's hidden kind of over here. More over here by this boat dock. I don't think there's too many. Yeah, there's one back in here as well. And then two more back in here. Now this one looks shallow, but look at all the cover around it and everything like that. So that one could be interesting. And then I really like the fact that you got two creeks that are coming in the back of this. Here's a creek channel here. And then here's another creek channel here as well. So real good stuff back in here, and then another boat ramp too. So if you're on the ramp pattern, dang, that's a lot of ramps you could hit at one time and then go hit that creek channel as well. So could be a real nice pocket to fish for sure. Then going down here, you've got some laydowns in here. Take a look at it. You've got another ramp that's over in here. And then moving up, didn't see too much in this pocket. Really along this whole entire bank line was kind of bare. I mean, I did originally mark the points, but we'll save those for the offshore spots. But coming up in here, not too much going on here. You do have some standing timber along the shoreline, but again, you're going to see that in a lot of places on Fork. But what I did notice right up in here is there are some rocks. Look at these big, huge boulders. It's like, where did they come from? They don't fit anywhere on Fork. It's the only place that you can find them, at least in this zone. So definitely fish around this area and see if these big rocks are further out here. They could be, and if they are, they're going to be fish magnets. So definitely fish around them. So once we hit those rocks, we kind of start getting back up into. Oh wait, never mind. Thought we were getting back up where we were. We still got a little ways to go. We get up in here. There is a roadbed that's here, and this line's right on it. There's actually not a road here, but you can see that there used to be a roadbed here. So definitely scan that roadbed. Look around it, try to find the bait fish, do things like that to see what you can find there. And then if you're there, if you can get back in here, a little bit tricky, but you got a pretty nice little creek channel that comes back in here. So I've marked that for you guys as well. We're going to go over 515 here. It's where I thought I was a minute ago. And we're going to get back up in here. Now, up in here, you got some pretty good docks to fish. I fished these docks before and had some good success. So don't be scared to fish these docks or these docks along this side as well. But as far as the marks go, we've got a ramp that's here. Another ramp is hidden in there that you can see. And then you've got this like concrete wall that starts about right here and goes to here. And sometimes those can be good. It really depends on the break. Like if this breaks off pretty sharp right here, this can be a really good area to fish. So take a look in there and just see if you can find anything in that spot. We got some good laydowns here too, big group of them. You got some right in here and some here. I can see that being a good crappie spot or a good bass spot if they're on that laydown pattern. Then you've got multiple ramps that are up here in the docks. I think you got 4 or 5 of them. So you got a ramp here, another one here, and another one here. And when you're fishing those docks, fish the entire thing. Get back here, cast back up behind the dock. Make sure you're casting in the front. Just all around it. Work each one of those docks because they're good docks for sure. And then over in here, you kind of have some debris, but I don't think that was there. When I moved the image up, that debris seemed to be gone, so I didn't mark it, but you may just want to scan around this area and just see if there's any laydowns in that area, some old dock posts, things like that. Now that you see that dock's being rebuilt, it makes me think there's probably some debris that was left over from the old dock. And then moving here, you got an old boat ramp. And I believe that's going to take us back up to that creek that we started in where the creek channel was. And that really finishes us up for Zone 1 for the Google Earth waypoints for Lake Fork. Remember to tune in next time. I'm going to go through all of the offshore hotspots for Zone 1 for you guys to take a look at. And then we'll put those on the waypoint cards that we sell on our site so that you guys can have access to that as well. And then when we get done with Zone 1, we'll do the same thing for Zones 2 through 5. So stay tuned. Lots of good information coming for you on Lake Fork. Until next time, hope you catch your PB. Take care.